All right. So welcome back. Um, don't really have any specific agenda in mind. Um, just thought, it'd be good to keep opening this forum once a month and seeing who shows up and seeing if anybody's had any new thoughts or new ideas or or any other topics to talk about. It's clearly just getting the conversation going and looping everybody in is proving pretty challenging. Um, at the last minute, stuff comes up, and you know, if you're only meeting once a month, then that means that's 2 months where you're not even touching base. So and the Discord doesn't seem to have gotten much activity. Um, so I don't know, uh, if anybody has any thoughts about how how to make this a more robust conversation that that has a chance to generate some momentum. Love to hear it.
I've not been active on the Discord just because I've been in my free time doing some DoorDash for a little walk around money. As is the state of the US. So in between time that I'm not, obviously you guys see me on Facebook, but that's just sharing jokes. Uh so I apologize. I want to get more involved there. I did just have a interesting conversation, Josh. I don't know if you remember her, Kaylee Duber. She worked at the parlor back in the day.
Sure.
I think in the original iteration at DVX, and she's done with her nomad ways because her dad is sick. She's kind of been bouncing around multiple countries, the world, Hawaii, this country, and then she's an online. She's not a therapist. She's a therapist. Yeah. So she kind of has the ability to work remotely, but she had this thing. She's moving back to Knoxville from New York City. And she's looking for property. I mean, obviously, this is the antithesis of what we're talking about, but I thought it was a fun conversation. She's looking for a property next to some sort of natural spring to open a health spa. I personally, and Kristen and I think that that's kind of short-sighted. And obviously, if you try to open up a health spa in Newport, it's not really going to be a thing. And also, but we just chatted about like what you would want that to be. And I was like, oh, so I'm in this group and we're chatting about what if it's a recreation space, it's also a learning space. What if it's a place you can come to for a convention? What if it's just a school? And I guess that's all I have at this point, but it was a fun conversation. And I need to dig back into what her and I talked about because I thought some of the stuff that she had to say was pretty interesting. It's just not coming forth at the moment because I chose to speak all of a sudden instead of think about what I wanted to say. So I apologize.
What did you think was short-sighted about a a spa retreat in Newport?
Well, Kristen put it the best, and I'll let
Yeah,
her
like
say
I
it.
think I think for what Kaylee's trying to do, there's not enough of a market. I don't think you have people in a high enough income bracket who will have, particularly in the next decade, that kind of disposable income where she's thinking about building.
Yeah, even if you make it inexpensive and accessible, women aren't getting their nails done
Right.
anymore. Because the price of it has gone from what you said, like $50 trip to a $90 trip
Mhm.
in 8 months, a year. So kind of like what we saw in '08, where people stopped getting spinners on the rims of their car and like excess stereos, like that's kind of happening right now. Like the accoutrement kind of thing is people aren't really interested in. So that's kind of why we felt like even if I did have real money, which her father does, and he's willing to invest, that's what brought forth the conversation. I was like, well, what have you thought? And she was just like, I can't leave the country for an extended period of time. So I've been trying to recruit.
I think, yeah, I'll chime in if it's okay for a moment. That spa idea in Newport, it would have to be on the Asheville side of Newport, you know,
Certainly.
or like a
For sure.
little Shangri-La kind of
Yeah.
hot springs kind of area, you know,
Right,
kind of,
right,
you
right,
know,
right.
but yeah, just to sort of, I wasn't aware that there was a Discord up. I don't know if I'm not getting, but I have dealt with Discord through, you know, Burning Man camps and stuff over the last 5 years or so. And um, so I'll be happy to kind of jump in and chime in a little bit on that.
I thought I sent that out to everybody.
I'm pretty busy with mom and having just put half of a new roof on my house and some other things that are going on. So it's conceivable I could have missed it, but I don't remember seeing anything.
No, actually looking at our message history, I don't see it there. So what I've been trying to do so that people aren't getting like a whole lot of unwanted replies is sending each message to each person in a separate message. And so the hazard of that is that I miss somebody. So it looks like that happened.
And the beauty of that is that some of us feel very special to get a little private message from you. Oh, he really wants to be there.
Well, now that you mention it, let me just go back and do that before I forget. Um, in the meantime, carry on. Well, shit. I don't see it in my message history with Jason either. Gil, did you get it?
No, no.
This would explain why you're
Am I the only one?
To my knowledge, I think I don't know that I got it either.
That's why it's just you and me. That's fine.
Last time we talked, I thought it was going to be a Reddit page
Well,
or a Reddit group. But
yeah, we started the Reddit group. That didn't go anywhere. And Mike is the one who set up the Discord.
Mm-hmm.
Is he just unavailable today, or is he kind of on the fringe?
He said that he was going to be here.
Okay.
So I'm surprised. Maybe he sent it to me and I didn't send it to anyone because I'm not seeing it in.
I got it
Kristen got it.
because I'm on the Discord. I'm in the Discord group.
It's because he likes you best.
Listen,
Take
he's
back
a very
everything I
smart
said earlier.
man if that's the case.
Josh, did you originally send that through Messenger? Is that how you sent it?
I'm not seeing it in any of my messenger threads.
Well,
Not
the
even-
reason I'm asking is because I saw it pop through, but it came through at like a time I was busy and I couldn't, and at that moment, attend to it. And when I went back to look for it, I can't find it. So I don't know. It's possible I could have accidentally deleted it, but I remember seeing it pop through because I was like, oh, there's the Discord, because I'm new to Discord. So I was like, okay, I'm going to have to figure that out. And then when I went back to look for it, I couldn't find it.
Well, all right.
Curious.
See here.
I put my tinfoil hat on. Did Zuck like squash the Discord message from going out?
Take that
Don't-
tinfoil hat off.
Don't leave my platform.
while we're talking about it, I'm going to set up a Discord right now.
I'm gonna put this in the chat, and you guys see if
Yeah,
following that
I'll copy and
works.
email myself. Messenger.
Did you send something through the? Oh, you sent it through the chat, not through the. Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Can anyone confirm that link gets you to the Lifeboat Discord?
Did you email it or?
I put it in the Zoom chat.
Oh,
So it took me to Discord, but I'm not registered, so I'm having to log in, try to create an account, I guess.
I'm gonna have to do that for Colby.
I'm making a profile right now.
Choose password for your Discord.
I don't have one.
I know. So too.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm not able to log into my old account, so I'm gonna have to mess with this later. But I do have a working link that's
Yeah,
back to a welcome back page. So
All
yeah,
right.
the link works.
I had two other people who have not yet participated in this conversation at all reach out to me and say they were interested, but one had a scheduling issue and couldn't make it tonight. One said he was going to be here and so far is not. So there's clearly, interest enough that if everyone was looped in the right way, I think that there would potentially be critical mass for an ongoing conversation, but that's obviously more challenging than one might think. Maybe maybe Discord is the right recipe, and simply the fact that it didn't get out in the right way is why it hasn't taken off yet.
Well, outside of that, I think something like this is going to take time. You can't. Um, Everybody's pretty fearful, I think, right now, and just kind of scrambling to make sure that theirs are taken care of, and like are having a hard time looking towards what's out there or any options, or maybe they've not even thought about this. Because sometimes when I bring this kind of subject up to people, they look at me like I've got two heads. And
like Peru or anywhere else is another planet.
Mhm. So we just need more disciples, guys.
Well,
yeah,
I've said all along, this is not necessarily a conversation about Peru.
Right.
Sure.
I
yeah.
mean,
I think something that might be key in bringing more people to this, creating more interest, creating people interest for people with this is to get away from the idea of not to get away from the idea, just the phrasing of what this is about. It's not a group about let's move to Peru.
oh, right.
It's a group, you know what I mean? So
Mhm.
so it's so that when I'm speaking with someone, I can say, we're having conversations about if we were to relocate, what would that look like? How would we generate income? What would the living infrastructure be? What would would it be a communal? What it would, et cetera, et cetera.
Mhm.
That's something that I think a lot of people get, I mean, because, well, you remember that message I sent you. I'm like, man, I just can't move to Peru right now. And you're like, here's a link to the first meeting. Go watch the first meeting. I watched the first meeting. I was like, awesome. So, so yeah, maybe coming up with an ideology or a framing of kind of more what this group is to bring to people and have it be a cohesive something that those that are already kind of involved co-create.
Like a mission statement. Like
Yeah, look,
what if we all said what we wanted this to be on our own terms and formulated it and then deduced it to a mission statement, like things that we can, at least us five, because I think Rucker, you weren't able to come to the first meeting, but everybody else I believe has been here from the
Yep.
onset. And obviously anybody else has any input, but like um, if we could create a mission statement, I think that's vital. I think you're very right, Rucker.
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree. And I think I don't even know that I would include relocating as part of the mission statement because that's a
Mhm.
pretty big bar to
yeah,
clear for a lot of people.
good
Uh,
point.
and I think that's that's a bar that a lot of people would choose not, to they would rule themselves out because of that.
Yeah.
To me, obviously the word that I chose and that I think is it has could be thought of in so many different senses and many of which don't involve picking up and moving anywhere is the lifeboat concept, which, to reiterate what I mean by that, and love to hear what everybody else, what it means to everybody else is that if we think of our society, the model that sustains us all, whether it be the economy, whether it be the political system, um, as a ship, there's, I think, a growing concern that ship is, if not definitely sinking, at least in danger of, in serious danger. And one thing that I said in the first meeting is that a long time ago I had an eye-opening, kind of just not thinking of the word, an epiphany, that's the word, which was sparked by the garbage strike in New York City, and just seeing how in a matter of days, when one of the countless systems that we rely on but probably don't ever actually think about stops working, then all of a sudden in a very short period of time the conditions of life can become pretty precarious. Um, and that's one little detail of life, garbage collection. If if a major system, like the provision of food to New York City, for example, stopped flowing for some reason, uh, New York City, in my opinion, would become a death trap in a matter of days. Um, and and I think that there are a lot of uh, a lot of things to worry about these days, and by the time the reality of the threat becomes present, it's probably too late to do anything about it. So what I think of, what in terms of mission statement that might speak to a lot of people, is that this is simply about the theme um, of imagining the different ways in which life as we know it could be disrupted, and asking ourselves as a community how we could proactively um, put ourselves in a better situation uh, to not be disastrously impacted by any of, a whole universe of potential threats. On the other hand, as I'm listening to myself talk, that also starts to sound kind of alarmist and paranoid, perhaps. So, so maybe some polishing to that concept would take those edges off of it.
The thing that comes to
Sorry.
the thing that comes to mind for me as you're talking and sort of thinking about this from a 30,000 foot perspective is intentional community development or innovation. And I think that that's just so different than what we're used to because we all kind of fall into our communities. You know, the world works the way the world works, and now the world is working differently. And so we're all, at least those of us in this group, thinking about what does intentional community look like instead of sort of just the communities we fall into naturally because of our hobbies or because of where we work or because of where we're from. So to me, that sort of speaks to the broad aspect of it. And it could have to do with moving to Peru, but it also could have to do with reinventing this idea of community where we're at or in another place.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, I think that's the polishing we were looking for.
Yeah, for me, this group is about looking at what my options are, you know, what possibilities are there for me should things get to the place where I feel like I got to jump, you know, and starting to get an idea of what that looks like as things continue to this fire continues to rage in this dumpster, you know. So yeah, I like the lifeboat. I've always loved the lifeboat. I've always loved that idea. And just for devil's advocate, when I think lifeboat, I think panic, not widespread, although widespread. Sorry, yeah, Colby. But you know, I think panic, you know, turmoil, chaos, jumping, you know, jumping overboard and whatnot. And at the same time, that's, you know, as far as just and you know, and I'm going way micro because this is through all this men's work stuff that I've done. I tend to have this tendency to go really micro. But in terms of the conversations that start, some of that wording can be helpful or not so helpful. That's all I'm saying. Or what I'm saying.
Well, you're right. And that's sales 101. And not to say that we're trying to sell anybody on the idea, but we want to give people the opportunity who are scared like we are, you know, an avenue to kind of, oh, maybe this is for me, as opposed to if I have to move to Peru to be, you know, like then it's a no, it's a non-starter. But language is very important, and I think going micro, I think starting micro is probably better, right? Obviously, we need big ideas, but we need to deduce them, and where do they start, right? And that's kind of, I guess, where we are right now.
Yeah, I think the flip side of, you know, having a broad umbrella is that you risk ambivalence, right? Because it's hard to, there's so many ideas, it's hard to really get traction with anything specific. So on one hand, it's wonderful to have like this broad open forum where you're like anything goes and like all ideas and we don't know what this looks like, but also at some point, you know, the flip side of that is it's hard to get traction. It's hard to kind of know what to do next if you don't have some sort of goalpost, I guess. And I would say that all groups that try to do this, you know, have that experience, like, because everybody's needs are different because some people can move, some people can't move, you know, so how do you meet the really broad needs of everyone in a meaningful way?
Yeah, I kind of hope that the way to square that circle is through through having this go on on multiple platforms, and that we find that we discover what the different platforms are good for. In other words, if the two platforms at the moment are monthly Zoom meetings and Discord, then it would occur to me that the monthly Zoom meetings are the place for the anything goes, soup to nuts, conversation about anything that's on anyone's mind. But the Discord is where some more specific directions can start to form. Because on Discord there could be one thread that is talking about moving to Peru. There could be another thread that's about just having a place to connect and talk to people. That alone may bring people in who would never consider picking up and moving anywhere. And I think ideally we want to welcome all of those different types of people, because as I think I was talking about last time or the time before, in the last few years, I've done a lot of talking to people through different digital platforms about the stuff I do in economics, and some really amazing things have come of that in completely unanticipated ways. Connections just come out of the blue because I was talking to this person, and that person knows that person, and you could never in a million years anticipate the fruit that kind of a dynamic can bear. So if I don't think that anytime soon are we going to put in motion a plan to buy a piece of property in Peru, or start a language school, or anything specific like that. But I think it is quite conceivable that if we are thoughtful about how to foster a worthwhile conversation, that a lot of people could be drawn into that and find it worthwhile.
I agree with that 100%. I think the biggest barrier to entry is a lot of the people that hold the same ideals as likely us six folks are in a financial situation where they feel trapped and stuck. And, as is much of America, even if you've got some savings, you're more or less paycheck to paycheck, right? So you miss three paychecks, you're kind of in a bad way. And I think that scares people too. It's like, how can I even plan anything when all I can do is maybe get a couple little Debbie's extra at the end of the week? And so I love that, like by opening the conversation to Discord. I think in our first meeting, we kind of touched on having the ability to just a sharing of resources, whether it wasn't moving to Peru, just like kind of having a dialogue, a continuing dialogue, and building a community with like just resources and help. Listen, if I had the money right now, I would move to Peru tomorrow. and I think I've said that before, but it's simply not in the cards for some people, and I don't want them to feel excluded because of that. Um, and that's okay too, right? So I think we can I think we can contain multitudes, as they say. I think everybody's spirit's in the right place. It's just how do we fine tune it to the point that it makes sense for people to want to grow with us, so to speak. Does that make sense? I don't know. I'm just kind of vibing when I'm talking here, but
For sure.
because I'm so sorry. I'm in an interesting situation. I lived out of the country. We sold our house and lived off the proceeds. We came back. The job market wasn't quite what I expected coming fresh off of COVID. And, it's been a little bit of a struggle here in Atlanta. And I don't know, you guys probably know in Knoxville, the rental game is outrageous. And I think it's just really tough for everybody. And that's not my main catalyst. My main catalyst is other
The
things,
dumpster
but
fire.
the dumpster fire, but it's tough. And so anyway, I'll leave my going down for my Facebook post as opposed to this meeting. I just
Well, talking about spaghetti on the wall ideas, our friend Kaylee Duber, we referenced earlier, we have a mutual friend who has started many years ago a language school in Panama.
Josh, you may know her, Angela Jones.
Cute blonde girl,
Yeah,
curly hair.
I don't think she worked for you, but her and Tess and Kaylee and all them cats were really good friends. I'm sure you met her, but
Yeah. So Angela started a language school there. I mean, this maybe 10 years ago. Wow. And I didn't realize that's why we hadn't seen her.
7 or 8 years.
So we have that on the docket to reach out to her and just see like how did that come about as a white lady?
And what she's doing is she's the proprietary teacher for a bunch of homeschool families.
Mhm.
And she's doing it as one person. Obviously, she went to college for this. I think she maybe even has a master's degree, but she has set herself up to live in obviously paradise. But she has like, I don't know, we want to talk to her and
Yeah.
get some more information. And I forgot to mention that earlier. So
Yeah,
thank
we're
you.
gonna investigate
Mhm.
and see what she's doing, how she's doing it.
Mhm.
So we'll
Yeah,
see,
that's quite a coincidence.
right.
And I really still feel that the language school idea is one that could be a first concrete step, because it's one that every single one of us could participate in where we are without lifting a finger, and uh, and it might generate some revenue, and it might allow each one of us to experience something that we've never experienced before. Like I talked, I think last time a little bit about my experience jumping into the English teaching thing here in Lima. I never wanted to or even thought about being an English teacher. I was here in Peru for other reasons and was just kind of looking for something to do, to get to know the place better, to get to connect with some people, to get to earn some money, and that was just an obvious option, and it was quite scary and intimidating at first, because like I said, I felt like I didn't know what I was doing because I didn't know what I was doing. But what I realized pretty quickly is that A, simply being a native English speaker has market value, and B, just being a caring, thoughtful person is all it takes to kind of start finding a way to create value for students beyond what the cookie cutter English instruction providers are offering. Because like I talked about the institute that I started working at, where the way that it worked is there were 80 or 90 pre-formatted classes, and you would just show up on any given day, and you're teaching class number 37 at 6 o'clock, and you're teaching class number 63 at 7 o'clock. And that was a viable business model. But I didn't feel like it was a terribly good value proposition from the point of view of the customers. And so if there's a viable business doing it that way, then why wouldn't there be an even better business model, custom tailoring it to the students and offering the students something more valuable.
We are also there. A lady in my neighborhood is offering Spanish lessons to kids. So we're looking into that for the fall. So I can totally rip off her curriculum if we decide that we want to move in this direction.
Maybe
I just had a weird thought too. I'm sorry, go ahead, Josh.
maybe you could invite Angela if she's, willing
yeah.
to share her experiences
sure.
to one of our subsequent meetings to download all of her experiences.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think she'd be open to share. Yeah.
Awesome.
Oh, so when we talk about intentional community, I've been, Rucker, I know you have, just like Burning Man, that is intentional community. Like what you guys go through there. I mean, obviously there's lots of other stuff going on, but like on a micro level, it really is intentional. The real people that are going there are there to have that community. When we use, going back to mission statement, in talking about what we're trying to do, I would, the notion of intentional community is the goal, but I would probably like to avoid using that term because we're not all a bunch of dirty ass hippies, right? Like, and that's the connotation. I'm not saying that it is, I just, in terms of like from the sales side of things, I agree. This is what this is. But the moment you say that, that is when people start thinking, weird sex cult kind of thing. And it's not a knock on it because I've been a part of intentional communities before that weren't weird sex cult kind of things, right? Like I dated a girl for a long time. She ended up becoming the manager of a place in Brunswick, Georgia called the Hostel in the Forest. Some really rich dude bought a bunch of land. Rucker, you should go check it out, man. It's right up your alley. It's an incredible spot. It's a hostel in the middle of the forest in Brunswick, Georgia, right near the coast. And every bungalow that you stay in is a tree house. And they on purpose never overbook it. It's never full because they want you to have the whole experience. You go there, you you have your tree house or your octagonal shaped dome house that you stay in, and then you do whatever you want to do. There's a swimming pool. They're really close to the beach. And then at night, they have a communal dinner with everybody staying at the resort. And the whole staff makes the dinner. There's not like a chef. And it's all, mostly vegetarian based with a sprinkle. Like they farm some stuff. I was there when I was there, they actually killed a pig. And the way they did it is we got in a big circle and we all played with the pig, and the guy that was to butcher the pig, after the pig had kind of worn itself out while it was still happy, it did the thing, and then they cooked it, and it was a whole thing. Anyway, all that to say is when I hear intentional community, I think about that space, and I think about like how it would turn off a lot of people that probably want the same things as we do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you just take the term and deconstruct it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Because what we are is a group of relatively like-minded individuals that are investigating them, you know, and it writes itself. You know.
Yeah, yeah.
You're just taking intentional community and deconstruct it into its definition, and then you've lost the word and kept
Yeah.
the meaning. So, yeah.
I would suggest that you could dispense with the word intentional, and that may solve the problem, because intentional is obvious. I don't think you need to speak it, because
Sure.
if we wouldn't be here if we didn't have an intention. So I think maybe just the word community doesn't necessarily bring up images of dirty hippies. And I would, at the risk of being kind of cheesy, I would throw out to the 1, 2, 3, 4, the 5 of you.
6.
And does it one?
I
I wasn't counting myself. Wasn't counting myself. What does the word community mean to you?
Yeah, I had this because we were blasted through my brain a few moments ago, a list of questions for us to answer in terms of, because like, why am I here? Well, I got a lot of answers. My ideal would be this. What's reasonable is this, and like Colby had mentioned about sort of us doing our own intentions around this, as we can just do it that way as well. Um, but I like the idea of learning more about where we're on the same page, creating it where we're all a little more knit together, a little more aware of where we want to be, to bring it to so that we can see the person that we want to bring this way easier.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? It makes them more visible.
Mhm.
So curious about some questions. Thank you for the community answer. I'm sitting with it much like I think the others were when I decided to break the silence.
The reason why I asked that question is I was having a conversation with my oldest, closest friend last time I was in the States, which was at about a month ago. And I said something which to him sounded extremely judgmental, and it might very well have been. But I was talking to him about my experience of moving to Knoxville, how that happened, because that in my life is one of the most incredible things that ever happened to me, because I had never set foot in the state of Tennessee until I was 33 or something like that, and the way that I describe it is that Knoxville found me rather than the other way around. Knoxville embraced the music of a band I was playing in, and invited us to come and play music there. And we did that, three times. And I met such an amazing group of people. I met a community that invited me in and embraced me in a way that I had never experienced anywhere else that I had been in 33 years prior to that. And the thing that I said to my friend, which sounded very judgmental, was I'm not sure if you have ever experienced community in the way that I mean the word, in the way that I discovered when Knoxville found me. And that's why I asked the question, because there community, well, what is community not? Community is not just a bunch of people in the same physical space, obviously. Because then, like New York City would be the most amazing community in the world, whereas I would say, Rucker, I hope you don't take this personally, given that that's where you are at the moment. I would say New York City is the place where there's perhaps the least community of any place I've ever been on Earth, and that applies to most big cities. I'm not singling out New York City. I think community. There are a lot of people in big cities who never experience community in the way that I mean it when I describe my experience in Knoxville. So if community does not refer to a group of people in a geographical location, what does it refer to? I think that's a interesting question to ponder.
Yeah, definitely. For me, it's about the spirit, like spirited people. It's a place that I can support and be supported, love and be loved. You know, have conversations that are other than brown paper bag conversations that I despise so fucking deeply. A place where I can really connect, where all of me is welcome. Warts and all.
We just talked about this for our homeschool group, and we have to define all this stuff and what kind of group we want to be. So we've actually had very similar conversations about community, and I think it all boils down to people you can be vulnerable with. I had a death in my family. Okay, we're going to bring food over. Or I'm having a hard time emotionally. Okay, we're here to support you. Or if it's a physical need or spiritual need, whatever, but have people attuned to that you can actually be vulnerable with.
Yeah, and Josh, you captured a snapshot in time in Knoxville. Probably the best time Knoxville ever had was the period in which you were living and thriving there. Um, Not to disparage it now. I don't live there. But it's not what it was in 2008 to 2015. It's just not. Period. End of story. And it's not our fault, right? But I was a part of that same community that you're talking about. Rucker, you were a part of that same community that he's talking about. And it gave me legs and wings and totally changed my perception of reality. Some of it was very superficial, don't get me wrong. Some of it was pretty shallow. But when Rucker says something like to be loved and to give love, to be supported and to give support, my very first interaction with him was I was heartbroken and tripping balls. And he just hung out on a patio with me and talked to me for like 45 minutes. And I knew immediately he was my people, right? And he helped ground me in that moment. And I'm sorry, Kristen dropped the lighter before she did some hippie shit. Anyway, when we lived on Utila, everybody was there for the same reason. Everybody was there to scuba dive. And so you instantly have a connection no matter your background. And so that gave you a grounding, like a way to communicate. Some of those people sucked, absolutely. But what was cool about Utila, because it was such a small island, there's only like 4,000 people that lived there. And tourist wise, there might be anywhere from 600 to 1,000 tourists any given time. If you sucked there, businesses just wouldn't do business with you. You basically got voted off the island, and it was pretty apparent. And like people just that in the the chain mail was very quick. And to me, that was almost like a really nice ideation of an intentional community that was also very prosperous financially, because these businesses were doing gangbusters, right? And they could be like, hey, I got kicked out. Me and my best friend got kicked out of the hostel that we were diving in 2013. I don't remember. And I was able to come back later as a married man with a child and be like, hey guys, I grew up. Are we cool? I got kicked out for partying too hard. This was back in the day. But and then we were able to build this amazing community. And here's what's crazy. We spent a year on this island. I talked to those people that I spent 1 year with, or maybe 4 months with, more than I speak to anybody from Knoxville. And I'm talking about on a daily basis, because we had to have each other's back, because there were limited resources. We were on a tiny remote island. It was hot. We were kind of the grandparents of the island, because we were like old and established, and these were a lot of kids just kind of figuring it out on their own. So our house became the safe space. So when people needed a break from the shit show that was the main area, they would just come hang out at our house and wouldn't leave for like a day or two. And we were able to just kind of shelter them and give them love. And to me, that is community. When I have an opportunity to get on a level with somebody and show them that, like, I don't care about your outward appearance. I don't care about what you do for work. I care about your character. And if it's not where you want it to be, how can I help you get it there? To me, that's the definition of community. When people are trying to make each other better in a way that is from love. And also to make a bunch of money.
Clean people. A group of clean people. I forgot. I left out clean.
Yeah.
No dirty hippies. No dirty people. Wash your feet.
All up against dirty hippies, like.
I used to be a dirty hippie.
Yeah.
I am a dirty hippie that has a corporate gig, y'all. Relax.
There you go.
One of the things, like, as I was listening to everybody's take on that, I thought it was really interesting. I feel a little bit afraid of throwing the baby out with the bathwater with that, simply because I think there's different kinds of communities. There's working communities, there's communities you want to survive in, there's communities where you go that are social, and sometimes there's overlap. So part of your working community might become part of your social community. Some people may come for safety, which is more like working community, like what are our resources? How can we help? How can we plan? I'm afraid. What do we do if shit hits the fan? And to me, that's sort of a different kind of community. And I guess that's what I meant by intentional, because I know certainly people who maybe are in sort of my demographic that are very interested in and concerned about the dumpster fire and safety and all of these pieces. So the idea, they may be looking for both kinds of community, but maybe the working community takes priority because there's this heightened level of fear. So the idea of creating space and time for something that doesn't feel purposeful or intention driven doesn't feel as helpful, because it's just a different kind of community, perhaps. So I guess that's the thing that, like, I keep, and I'm not even sure I'm putting that into the right words, but that's the thing that keeps mulling over in my brain. Like if I try to recruit some folks I know and they're like, well, what's the goal here? Why am I going to spend my time doing this? If their idea of community or their specific need with community is not social, then you could lose them, if there's not some sort of sense of purpose or intentionality behind some kind of structure, I guess is what I'm saying. They may love us and be like, I would have a beer with any of you, but they may not want to spend 2 hours, just chatting with us. So I guess that's kind of like where I'm stuck, because personally find value in both. I love talking to everyone here. I love hearing everyone's ideas. That's like social community to me. But also, I want some practical stuff because I'm afraid. I want to be able to have some like thoughtfulness and planning and so for me it's duality, but I know that not everybody fits that. So some people may just want the like social community part of it, and some people may want sort of a more like structured community. There are people that, if the shit hits the fan, I might trust their judgment and their skills, and like we may be able to mutually benefit one another, but we might not be like social buddies that would go to the bar on the weekend or something. But there's a community respect there, a community relationship, a symbiotic relationship that's not necessarily also a social one. So I don't know what all that meant, but I just like it's kind of two separate things in my head that can cooperate very nicely. But if you focus just on one over the other, then you kind of, there's a lot of people that you potentially exclude that could be of value, maybe.
You know how in Discord you can have like channels? Like I wonder if we could just set it up as simply like Discord channel, safety stuff, obviously rename, and like a Discord channel, social, Discord channel, Spanish school people, like maybe that's where we could divide it out. So we could kind of drill down. So to your point, we're not excluding, that's kind of where we want to go with it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And we're building community. I I know half of you, and I love you, and I'm super cool with the people that I don't know here. I don't know that this is a community yet. It's I mean, we've kicked the dirt. It's awesome, and but yeah, to your point, in, intentional community. I mean, as Josh said, and intentional is implied, and also like, this is a group that's building a community.
Yeah.
And like for me, in my ideal community, I'm super challenged. That might not be somebody else's. Somebody else would be like, no, dude, my community, I want to chill. I want to be challenged. I want to be challenged mentally. I want to be, challenged creatively and ideologically, et cetera, et cetera. So we're all going to have, slightly different ideas about how that looks. But thank you for sharing all that. That gave me a lot of, it gave me some insights. And something else that somebody shared with me that I was a little unaware of. There was a conversation around protests and their lack of effectiveness. And in that conversation, somebody said, yeah, but here's the thing that you're not thinking about that happens in a protest is other people see other people like them there, and they don't feel alone, and they feel empowered, and they feel supported, and they feel like they're part of something. And you can't put a value, you can't measure the intensity of that. This group, for someone that might tend towards introverted, might be a safety net in itself, just having a place to come and talk to people about stuff like this. So this thing has a lot of facets as I see it.
Damn, that's a great point. I'm so sorry I yelled. Regardless of a movement, okay, so Kristen's talking about like maybe Discord goes into channels and there's like, here, if you're for real wanting to expat, if you're for real just trying to figure out what your resources are, if you just want to come and have a community of like-minded people in a monthly spaghetti on the wall type thing, that's beautiful. I think that's within itself is a resource, right? Just to give someone an opportunity to feel A, heard, or B, part of something. Rucker, I love the way you said that. Like, whoever told you that about protests, I've never really thought about that, because I myself have thought, what's the point? Like,
Yeah.
but
That was one of the things that was said, was like, they're up there laughing. They don't give a shit.
Yeah.
They're having a $2,000 glass of scotch and saying whatever. It's
Yeah.
not, and at the same time, it's not all about him.
Yeah.
It's about us down here being together.
Yeah.
So it's a wonderful awareness. I'm really happy to have. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Whoa.
Hmm.
Okay. No, like that perspective just kind of blew my mind. I just never thought about it that way. And, so thanks. That's
Yeah.
really cool.
No, absolutely. And the Discord, exactly what Kristen's saying, like the Discord is so beautifully and perfectly built for exactly, like these guys want to seriously talk about expat stuff. Like they've got their, and you have all these, you get on there like, oh, here's a new thing for, you know, uh, Gil has started a thing about, help, playa tech furniture, that you can build from plywood. That's, easy peasy, and the instructions are online. All these little things, all these little threads. That's where the Discord's beautiful.
Gil, do you have any thoughts about what your idea of community is?
Well, I was just yeah, thinking about that. Like we were talking about how just a group of people is just a group of people, but you know, a group of people with similar interests or similar goals is a community. So I think we're definitely a community starting to be one, and and we're talking about what is not a community, but so I've been thinking about that. So I live in a house in kind of West Knoxville, or actually west of West Knoxville in the suburbs, and I've lived here in this house for many years, and I don't really know hardly any of my neighbors. Like I don't really feel like I'm part of a community here at all. So um, the two houses across the street are rentals, and there's been like a couple of people in those houses for a while, and I don't even know their names. I know my neighbors on either side of me pretty well, but we talk maybe once every 6 months. I might run into them or wave at them. And that to me is not a community. And yeah, so I feel like we're more of a community than my physical space that I live in right right now. Um, yeah, so that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, we're actually we're actually part of a community that we haven't met yet.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And by the way, I'm in Knoxville mostly these days, so I'm in Bearden, so
Okay,
I don't drink. Uh,
I don't either very much
awesome
anymore.
Yeah, I put it down a little bit ago, but yeah, but if you feel the pull to have some like-minded chat, whatever.
Yeah, that'd be great. Love to meet up anytime.
Cool.
Are you in New York now, or are you in?
I'm in Bearden right now. I'm in Knoxville.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
So I'm here for the duration, I think, till there's some transition with mom. So
Okay.
it's where we are right now. So, but yeah,
Gil, are you
I'll find you on
in,
the Discord.
oh, sorry.
That's right. I'll find you on the Discord, and we'll.
Yeah, let's chat. Sure, be great.
Gil, are you in Lenore City?
I'm in Cedar Bluff area.
Oh,
Okay.
my
Yeah.
very first apartment, if you got off Cedar Bluff and took a right, it was a 400 square foot apartment. It used to be old folks retirement area
Okay.
home in the 80s. That was my very first apartment. I almost got arrested at the Waffle House right there at one point in time.
Been to that Waffle House many times.
Yeah,
I live about 5 minutes.
I know that
from it.
area really well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You remember what apartments they were? The name of them?
The ones right next to Catholic. So
Right by
like
the Catholic church.
yeah, right
Okay.
next to Catholic High School.
Yeah,
In
yeah,
the church. I can't remember the name of it, but
Yeah.
yeah. That was my
I know
very
which ones you're talking about. I can't remember the name of them either, and I drive by them all the time. But
I'm sure it's changed. Sun.
Sun something, yeah.
Yeah.
I, uh,
I don't know, man. I was having a good time. I don't really
yeah.
remember a lot.
Sun Chase, Sun Chase, or
Sun Chase, yes, Sun
Sun
Chase
Chase, yeah,
apartment. Yes,
yeah.
that is exactly that. That's
Yeah,
fantastic.
I've lived in this area since golly, 2006, almost 20 years, and watched it just the population here, I bet, has probably doubled since then.
Oh, sure.
Like it's every square inch of bare land is just being gobbled up with something, usually apartments and houses, So,
Yeah,
um,
there's a good chance I knocked on your door one time and tried to sell you cable phone and internet.
I think I remember you now.
Yeah,
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 I think I ran you off probably.
yeah, probably.
Probably.
Like, get
It
off
was
my
a good
land.
decision.
You close your eyes, you can almost smell the patchouli.
Yeah, exactly.
I've never worn patchouli.
Smell you
I've
coming.
actually never worn patchouli.
All right, Josh, we've hijacked your meeting and run this thing completely off the rails.
Sorry about that.
You want to pull us back to center?
There are no rails, but I, to be honest, I was coming to this meeting today with uh, negative energy because um, because I've tried to get this conversation going a bunch of different times and in a bunch of different ways, and it doesn't. Prior to this, it has not generated any sustained momentum, and I felt like I knew that a few people who were telling me until today that they were going to be here were not going to be here at the last minute. I was like, shit, this is petering out yet again. But I tried to show up without without expressing negativity, and I think this has been a great conversation, a worthwhile conversation, an important. I think each of the three meetings that we have had has been an important progression from the previous one in different ways. And so I'm there, like I said, there are no guardrails, there's no out of bounds as far as I'm concerned. I'm kind of relieved to have learned about what was really my own Discord screw up, because I was feeling negative about that too. I was like, well, I tried Reddit after the first meeting, nobody participated. We tried Discord after the second meeting, nobody participated. Turns out nobody participated because they didn't know about it. So what I would propose, now that that's come to light, is that everyone here and anyone who happens to watch the recording of this, I would encourage you to join the Discord, but not just to join it, but to interact twice in the next month somehow. Say something, propose something, react to something, just so that something starts happening there, because I think that you sometimes just need to prime the pump a little bit, and then things start happening of their own with their own momentum. So if the six of us and three or four other people who happen to watch this video recording do that in the next month, then that's 20 Discord interactions that should happen in the next month. um, that's that could be, that could be the spark that leads to a self-feeding, dynamic.
So maybe we can talk about like more like the practical stuff here, like with Discord. Maybe we just make sure everybody can actually get on it and use it and are able to communicate. So I just made a profile and I clicked on your link and it's not working for some reason. So I don't know if we figure that out now or do it like offline on, we can message about it on Facebook or whatever, but I'm not able to get on there for some reason.
Now that I realize that the screw up, I promise that I will figure this out. I will email each of you. I will email everybody who has participated in at least one of these sessions. And if there is anybody watching this who has not been in one of these sessions and wants to join the Discord, just contact me directly and I will loop you in.
I somehow missed that there was a Reddit. I remember talking about it, but I don't know that I ever received any kind of link to the Reddit, because one thing I'm good at follow up on is that sort of thing. Is
It
to
didn't really work, Rucker.
Yeah, I
Link
didn't get it
was
either.
somehow it was like,
I get you.
yeah, it just
Yeah,
didn't.
yeah. Well, it doesn't matter. Well,
You joined us for the first time in the second meeting. You weren't in the first meeting. The first meeting was when we talked about Reddit, I believe. So it makes sense that you didn't know about it.
yeah, it was kicked around a bit along with. Oh, you know what? You're absolutely correct. And I was watching it on video, and people were saying, we're talking about, and I was like, and I was yelling at the screen, watching the recording, going, "Red Discord, Discord!" like, what you guys want is Discord. And then if somebody said something about Discord, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna. So, that was a funny one.
Awesome.
Yeah. We'll get the Reddit. We'll get the Discord up and running, and
Yeah. Everybody try to do two interactions on Discord in the next month.
Yep. I'm gonna sign up and yes.
and that'll be also, we'll create it. We can create a place in there, a thread that will be, what's your energy around this group? What are your hopes? What are your desires? How would you like to see this grow? Et cetera, et cetera. And we can start exchanging and feeding off each other in that, so we can better define this thing, so that we can better see the people that would, that'll fit to grow this thing. So, and Josh, I know that you already know, this is an uphill battle, and some of the things that Alice spoke to are very indicative of there's not an end goal, right? There's ideas of a direction, which is great, but there's really not an end goal. The men's work stuff that I've done, it's a very static, very solid, it's very black and white. It's a very obvious thing. So to build this when there's not an ultimate sort of end of the trail, a summit kind of, is an added thing. But I'm feeling some energy around this. I think we stand a chance.
And there could very well be end goals in sight in the near future.
Absolutely, yeah.
Multiple end goals in sight that appealed to different people who are here for different reasons.
Sure, hands down.
Well, you guys want to leave it there?
I think it's a perfect spot because Rucker, man, I love everything you just said.
That's good. We have good marching orders, good way to organize communication going forward.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks guys. We'll do it again in a month and I'll see you all on Discord.
Thank you guys. I'm so glad you all were here.
Absolutely. Same. Thanks for letting me be a part of this, and take good care of yourselves. Love harder. It's the only way through this shit is to love harder.
Yeah.
Love hard
Nice
and
chatting
love a
with you
little
guys
harder.
again. Yeah.
All right.
Good night,
Love
everyone.
hard. That's a new motto. I like that.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah.